sant yàlla.
looy xaar utal Wave nga scan nga fay te nag doo ci yokku dara.
Jar Oil, the company, have filling stations across the country, and our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market.
In the Gambia, we all move to different paces. Time is money, convenience is power, and now both are in your hands. No more long lines, no more late payments, no more missed chances, not anymore. Because now the Gambia has its own super app, Zap. One app, one tap, endless convenience. Send money instantly, pay your bills in seconds, shop without borders, pay your rides, order your meal, buy your ticket, deposit and withdraw money for absolutely free. No extra charges, no hidden fees, only on Zap Super App. This is not just convenience. This is confidence. This is the future in your hands. And the best part, Zap is born right here. Built for us, designed for every Gambian home, every Gambian dream. So don't wait in the past. Step into the future. Download Zap today on App Store and Play Store and enjoy endless free services. Call us today on our toll-free number 1666 or on 260-0001. Zap, all in one, all for you. Tap in, zap in.
We are beginning with a defining chapter in the Gambia's journey towards justice and reconciliation. At the helm of the newly established Reparations Commission is Dr. Badara Loom, entrusted with restoring dignity to victims of past abuses and guiding our nation through the delicate work of healing. He is with us now on the program, accompanied by two members of his commission, his Executive Secretary, Esa Koka, and Commissioner Babanding Dafe. So for the next 50 minutes or so, we hope to share the vision, the challenges, and the promise of reparations in building a more just future for all Gambians. Dr. Loom, thank you very much for joining us again this morning.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
And Executive Secretary Koka, good to have you back with us.
Thank you, Peter.
And Babanding, you insist I have forgotten you.
Thank you very much, Peter, for having us this morning.
Again, we said this in our last program about the significance of having a reparations commission. What's the significance of your commission?
Yeah, the significance is we need to look at the context. The Gambia was transitioning from a very brutal dictatorial regime, which was characterized by gross human rights violations, enforced disappearances, torturing of victims, and other forms of violations. So from 1994 to 2017, the whole country endured this type of situation, and then fortunately for the Gambia in 2017, we moved on to a democratically elected regime of the President Adama Barrow, and then in the process we had to embark on a transitional justice process, and one of the most important steps taken by the new government was to set up a TRRC. And one of the recommendations of the TRRC was to have a reparations commission to address the issue of human rights violation and to see how we can restore dignity, as you mentioned, to victims of these violations. It's in that context that the Reparations Commission was set up, and it was in line with the provision of a law, it was the Victim Reparation Act of 2023. And that's how the commission was set up. In April, 1st of April, I don't like mentioning the date, 1st April, because people might think that it has something to do with April Fool. Exactly. That was when we were appointed as commissioners, and I was appointed as chair with 6 other commissioners. And then we started our operations. First of all, we had to build up the institution from scratch, that is recruiting staff, looking for accommodation, and so forth. But now, at least in the last 6 months, we have attained some significant progress, but then the challenges have just begun, because we have gone into the phase where we have to roll out payments to victims. And that's where the challenge.
We will stay positive for a while before we go negative. And Mr. Coker, so some of those achievements, if you can just highlight them. I'm sure you can't cover everything in the few minutes we have left, but the main ones.
Okay, thank you, Peter. I will start with the issue of establishing the office. As you know, it was a challenge, and finally we got there, and we moved in. I mean, sometime in August. Part of the achievement so far, I think, has been the starting of the disbursement of funds to victims. We targeted doing that in December. We went around the country, various regions, met with the victims and committed ourselves that we're going to start paying in December. And we worked tirelessly to ensure that we achieve that milestone. So I think that is one of the main achievements so far.
Fantastic.
Yes.
And Babanding, I suppose, in crisscrossing the country, now we can come to challenges. You must have encountered a few challenges. But before the challenges, I mean, did you draw any delight from the experience?
Yes, our experience engaging with the victims, the length and breadth of this country, we come across the certain victims who were not even appeared before the Commission, TRRC. And that engagement was very fruitful because we all know not everybody appeared before TRRC. And it's their right also to be part of this process. And that engagement definitely enlightened us that we have more victims in the provinces that also need to be part of this process. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And Mr. Chairman, what about, those victims identified by the TRRC? One would have thought that, they would be prioritized.
Yes, actually that is the priority. We inherited liabilities from the TRRC. The TRRC interviewed about 2,000 victims, but they recognized 1,009. So those 1,009, some of them were even given pro rata advance payments of about 19%, I think. So with the understanding that once a reparation commission is set up, then we will take care of the balance. And that's what we have been doing. But then we know that we cannot address all the victims at the same time. So we have tried to put a system in place. So it's chronologically how when the violation occurred, those whose violation occurred in 1994 are given priority. So in the last few weeks, we've been paying victims whose violation occurred in 1994, 95, and 96. At the end of maybe in a few weeks time, we'll start payments from 1997 to 2000. So that is what we have put in place. And obviously, whenever there is the issue of sharing out resources, there will be challenges. There will be people who will say, I think that I deserve more. Of course. We have even have people who would say, no, my violation occurred not in 2000, it occurred in 1994 or 1995. But we'll say that we are going by a database that was provided by the TRRC. If your violation is recorded by the TRRC as having occurred in 1994, and you are telling us that your violation actually occurred in 2000, yes, we will investigate. But if you have also documentary evidence, it will help us make our work much easier. So we are facing those challenges. And then also the issue of banking. Some people have brought documents to the TRRC that do not match with the documents they have now and also their banking details. I always give this example of Mamadou Ndiaye and Modou Ndiaye.
Yes.
You have your ID card, there is Modou Ndiaye. Your bank account says Mamadou Ndiaye. TRRC record says Modou Ndiaye. Yeah. So this mismatch has also been quite a challenge. And the Executive Secretary might dilate on that. But they have had people whose payments are delayed simply because there's a mismatch between your banking details, the documents you have provided, and the testimony you provided to the TRRC.
Mr. Coker, you may dilate on that right away, because one of the reasons for appearing on the program this morning is to educate people, particularly victims, as to how to go about, making claims for reparation.
Yes, thank you. Just to pick up from where the chair stops, regarding these 1,009 that were identified by the TRRC, 248 were paid in full. For those were those that were allocated $70,000 and below. What the TRRC did was, initially, for those that were paid from $50,000 and below were paid in full, and later on they adjusted that number to 70. So those that were also allocated 70,000 were paid, with the exception of a few.
Okay.
So presently, we have a balance of 761, including 54 West African migrants.
Oh.
Yes. So as we speak, like approximately about 707 have been paid 19%, and we're currently working on the payments of their balances.
Okay.
So that's what we've started with. And regarding the documentation, and in our publications, we've also indicated that they're supposed to be providing a valid ID, obviously their banking details, because these are the things that will help us. So we pursue all victims to provide matching documents, because we know anything presented to the banks that has a mismatch, a JASE and a JASI won't sail. So these are some of the things that we are having challenges on, and constantly we try to, advise victims to abide by all these requirements before we can proceed.
How will you deal with the case of the West African citizens, the West African victims, the victims from other West African countries? Are they going to be paid in Dalasi? Are you going to wire their monies to them where they are, or their families?
Obviously, like our payments process, like the allocation remains the same, because these were amounts allocated by the TRRC. So when we're paying, it's just like when you have Peter in Zimbabwe, we make a transfer to Peter's account, regarding the currency. So as far as we dealing with the central bank, we'll provide the banking details that Peter presented.
Okay.
And obviously will be transferred in the currency.
Okay.
So that's how we're going to deal with the migrants.
Have you had any communication from them regarding how they feel about, the amount allocated?
Well, actually, we had a meeting. They came to visit, and that was, I think, about 2 months after we set up the office. They came and also raised a couple of issues, because I think they're also looking for an opportunity to kind of augment what was allocated to them. But as of now, we cannot commit to that. We just abide by.
Because 70,000 may be something in the Gambia. By the time it gets to Ghana or
it's something
somewhere else, maybe it's just a drop in the ocean.
Because as of now, as you know, like we're basically proceeding with the recommendations of the TRRC. So then subsequently, when we're dealing with new victims, we have the point-based system approach that will be adopted, and then each violation would be allocated a particular number of points, and that will be translating to the financial bid.
You wanted to add something before I go on to that?
So for the West African migrants, their payments would be the same as Gambians who have lost their lives, for example. So for extrajudicial killings, disappearances, and I think the point-based system recommends that they will be paid around 600,000. Yeah, so it's about 600,000 per victim. And most of them, at least for the Gambian victims, they were given an advance of about 200,000. And right now, those who are being paid are paid about 400,000, about, roughly.
51%.
Yes, for the West African migrants also it's quite a challenge because of the distance, because they're also of sometimes scanty documentation, and then not knowing who is the next of kin. Although we have had a meeting with them, but then we will pursue the issues that were raised at the meeting to ensure that there is transparency and that people are treated fairly and justly, so that the reputation of our country is at stake. These were things that were not supposed to happen at all. It had happened, and we take full responsibility, and we will ensure that whatever we have within the limited resources that we have will be distributed, equitably.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Commissioner, yeah, sure, absolutely.
I think one of the victims that I engaged always called. He always asked whether they will also be entitled to other form of reparation, like medical rehabilitation. Some of them who had this developed some psychosocial stress because of their loved ones has been involved in these violations. So we said, well, the victim is a victim. If so long you are identified, we have a medical board. Of course, with time, this may also be extended to them also to benefit from those services.
Okay, I was going to say, apart from, money issues, What other emotions or expectations have you encountered so far, working with the victims?
Our mandate is money. Our mandate is to provide reparation. And reparation is about what? You provide compensation, restitution, and rehabilitation, non-occurrence, and satisfaction. Of course, we manage expectation alongside with what we do. Of course, when we receive victims, this is a process. For 4 years, it's our mandate. And it has to go in stages. So, of course, people need to be aware, enlightened, that this process will take a time, but we ensure that they will get their reparation at the end of the day in any form.
Is there any reason why you decided to start with 1994?
Well, yes, the challenge was...
And is there a strategy to, the phasing?
Yeah, we were taught that we had consultations with our partners, the AVLO, for example, the Association of victim-led organizations, and we had consultations with many other stakeholders, and we came to a conclusion that there must be a systematic approach that will not be subjected to how's it called, analysis and found wanting. There are many suggestions. Some said, why don't we start with the most severe cases, like people who were abducted and executed? Yeah. Let's start with those ones. Others said, why don't we start with women who had faced gender-based violence? Others said, why don't we start with those who have left children who are going to school now? They will need scholarships, they will need to be given medical care, and maybe just subsistence allowance so that they can take care of their basic needs. After analyzing all those options, we came up with this solution that, look, the best way to go about this thing is to ensure that we follow what the TRRC did. The chronology that the TRRC took, we took the same chronology.
First come, first serve.
Yes. Sometimes the issues would be, okay, my violation didn't occur on this year, it occurred another year. Someone will say, I was with Peter, we went through the same horrendous violations. Peter was paid 700,000, I was paid 200,000. And we have had those type of issues, particularly in our outreach program when we were up country. And we told them categorically the reason is what you presented to the TRRC. If you go to the TRRC, 2 people were, let's say, abducted from Gunjur, taken to the NIA, beaten mercilessly, and then after a month they are released. These 2 will go to the TRRC. One will say, yes, I was with him. We went to Gunjur. Yes, they took us to NIA. Then they left us. One would say that. The other would say, from my house. That's when the violation started. They said they beat me up in my house. They broke my furniture. We went to NIA. They took me to Bambadinka. I was tortured. I was beaten mercilessly for 3 days in a row. So, but that particular person might be...
There's more context in that situation than the other one.
Things like that have happened, and then only for us later, for people to come to an appeal, why was this guy paid this amount and I was paid this amount? But we also try to explain that it is not. We did not decide how much people should get. It was the TRRC that decided. The appeal process was supposed to be within the context of the TRRC. Now our concentration would be on new victims. If you are a new victim and you come to us, you tell us the whole story, but also nothing but the truth. If you tell us things that are not true, there is also a violation within the context of this act, and there might be even, punitive actions that might be taken against them. That we hope it will not occur.
And Koka, what safeguards are in place to prevent fraudulent claims and ensure transparency?
Well, we try as much as possible to verify claims and documents. Evidence have to be there. Obviously, anybody that walks in claims to be a victim will be heard, and we have to exhaust the verification exercise, starting from your ID to the statement, and obviously we'll do some investigation. So these are some of the things we will ensure that before you disburse any payment, we go through all the checks and balances.
Okay. And how does, trying to accommodate new claimants, affect your work?
It's a big challenge because, as you know, as the head of the secretariat, these things happen on a daily basis. as per our mandate, we are starting with the payment of the balances of the identified victims. Yes. Simultaneously, we're also registering new victims. Yes. As we speak, victims work in the office on a daily basis. So we try to basically manage ourselves because, we have a very lean structure. So we have a single statement taker. We have also one a victim support officer. I have a deputy, a finance officer, procurement. That's it. Wow. So we are 6 in number.
And before you know, you could be dealing with thousands.
Exactly.
All right.
So we have a very lean structure.
Yeah, as the Secretary said, we know that in future there might be need to recruit more staff. Or in fact, even if it's going to be on a temporary basis. Just last night I was thinking of why don't we look at the University of the Gambia. Maybe the law faculty, there might be students who might be taken in as interns who could help with statement taking, for example, and investigations. Why don't we sometimes also work very closely with the national security agencies, like even the police and also the former people who had worked with the NIA. Maybe they might, quote unquote, might be able to help in conducting investigation. Not, of course, with the way that they were doing it before, but just ensuring that if you say that this violation had occurred, you present the proper documentations, and then also we look at witnesses. You said that you were beaten in Jambur, or you were part of the victims of the famous witch hunt. Yeah. Definitely in Jambur there might be people who can substantiate this.
Yeah, absolutely.
They will say, yes, I was there, it was in my presence, or as the alcalo, as the caretaker in the school was present, the headmaster was somewhere. These are things that need to be put together, and it requires more manpower than we have. So we will certainly work in very close consultation with other institutions, government or non-governmental, and so forth.
Okay. Fadera, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I just wanted to add that our mandate is to work with the victims, and we have committees that works with the secretariat, and these committees also have their role to make sure that the issues of the victims are addressed adequately and on time. And that is the rehabilitation committee. You have the compensation and also restitution committee. Also, we have subcommittees like gender other working groups also address issues of the victims. So all this together with the secretariat definitely help them to address some of these issues. That's what I wanted to add.
All right. And how is the commission funded? Let me start with you and work my way back to the chairman. Yes.
We have an act that was enacted by the National Assembly. It came in 2023. Mm-hmm. And if you look at Section 5 of this act, it's really the funds of the commission. It's the appropriation of the fund by the National Assembly, and also the fund that from the sale of the former president, and also the grants and other gesture from other agencies or stakeholders. So this is how we get our fund. Of course, the government has so far allocated some for the reparation.
Is it the famous 50 million?
No, I think 20 million has been allocated so far.
The 50 million was to the TRC.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean for the commission.
For the commission.
That's why we were able to start the reparation from 1994 to 1997.
Okay, so is 1994 to 1997 covered now?
Yes.
There are no more payments to be paid to victims from 1994 to 1997.
It's still ongoing. Okay. It's still ongoing. Like we've been allocated $20 million for the victims in 2025, and 10 million was for our operations. So we started utilizing the 20 million in 2025. So we expect that probably towards the end of February, that should be exhausted. 2026, we've been allocated 20 million again for the victims, of which we're going to make a request probably by tomorrow, so that there will be continuity. As soon as we exhaust the initial 20, we'll tap into the allocated 20 for this year, so that at least there wouldn't be interruptions in our payment processing. So that's the plan.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, but victims from 1994 to 1997, most of them have been...
Yes, it's ongoing. We're still paying. So it's ongoing. Like the out of the 20 million, almost 40% have been executed. So it's ongoing as we speak. So that's the reason why I'm saying probably mid-February or towards the end, we will be able to exhaust that 20 million and then start tapping into the 20 million allocated for this year.
Okay.
Going back to your question of victims that violations that happened between 1994 to 1997, there might be new victims whom will register and they will say, yes, my violation occurred in 1994, and these are new. There might be new victims, so we might have to, go
this
back.
could be a complicated process.
Very complicated.
But that's why the mandate is 4 years. You cannot. Sorry, of course, 5 years for the chair. But for us, it's 4 years.
Oh,
yes.
5 for the chair.
So it's 5 for the chair, but for us it's 4 years.
So they will leave you there, and then you'll have to build
I think it's mainly to wrapping up, writing reports and things like that.
That would make yes.
But fundamentally, the 4 years is for the commission, and then the 5 years is for the secretariat. I think, yeah.
Given the pace at which you're going, is this doable in 4 years?
It can be extended.
Oh, it can be extended.
Yes, there is a provision for extension, but the most important thing is the resources. They had mentioned the allocations. Just off the cuff, the liabilities from the TRRC amount to about 168 million. Then the Ghanaian, the West African migrants, about 42 million. 34. Then who are thinking of registering maybe up to about 400 to 500 new victims. That would require, again, an additional...
I am a victim.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying...
I haven't been to the TRRC.
You are still welcome.
Maybe I should come to the Reparations.
You are welcome. There are many victims who have not come up. But then that's why our very, very rough estimate will be about 400 to 500 new victims. And if we just cross-reference the TRRC, for 1,009 victims, the liability was about 168. So roughly half of that would be maybe another, we are thinking of another maybe 50 million probably. Globally, we're thinking of about $500 million that we will require. So this allocation of 20 million is a drop in the ocean, really. It cannot take care of all the liabilities. But then there are other efforts also to tap into donor communities, aid programs and so forth. We will be looking around and seeing how we can raise additional funding. There's this famous talk of the Potomac property of the former president, and that eventually, hopefully, the funding might come to the Reparations Commission. But the other challenge is that when we talk of the assets of the president, the former president, and there is probably the possibility of asking the National Assembly, why can't we get some funding from whatever, if there's anything remaining, we want to have some so that we give it to the victims. Yeah? So the challenges are around, but we are hopeful, and we'll push on.
Okay. All right.
So we need to understand, that's the monetary compensation part he's talking about. But there are other rehabilitation, and that also required funding from the government. The medical board, seeing the victims who have medical condition, psychosocial support, and also the restitution. People have lost their business, people were unlawfully dismissed from their job when they are not even time for retirement. So those things also need also...
You seem to be talking about me.
So it's not only about the monetary compensation. So it's a whole lot of process that need to be addressed.
Do we plan to say anything in the local languages as part of this? Because I suppose you'll be, most of the people you'll be working with would be, people who cannot fill forms on their own, and they need to know how to go about, maybe filling the form and making claims and all of that.